Reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and if anyone would like to sign up for public comment, please do so via the chat feature. All yours, Dr. Liu.
Great. Thank you very much. Just opening up our executive committee, and appreciate everyone's support and welcome as I take on this new role, and patience, of course, of which very, very excited to help support and lead this organization with all the other trustees, but especially this executive committee. So I'd like to acknowledge our reaffirmation statements. This is the opening statement as per slide in front. In the interest of time, we'll not be reading through this, but I think we've all read it in the past, and we do acknowledge the importance and spirit of the elements within this slide. Perhaps next we would move on to roll call, and Pamela, could you help us with that?
Yes. Jay, can you please do me a favor and upgrade Mr. Heiler, who is in the public section? All right. Arana Ortiz?
Here.
Berman? Joe?
Oh, sorry, I was muted here.
Cronin?
Here.
Heiler?
Here.
Hawkins?
Here.
Liu?
Here.
And Westra.
Here.
We have a quorum. Next, you can go on to you're muted.
Thank you. Absolutely. And next, you were going to say we can go on to the approval for the January 30th, 2024 meeting minutes. These were distributed. Those who were there, I hope that you've read over. I will personally recuse myself since I was not at this meeting, but I'll call for a nomination to approve.
So moved.
So moved.
All right, do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, great.
The correct answer is all in favor, if there is any no's, and if there's any abstention, which I will mark for you. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
And one abstention. So moved.
All right. I guess welcome remarks. I don't have a ton. I was going to speak a little bit at the end of the last meeting, but would say at least in this executive meeting and executive committee would say that hope to lean on this group very much so. I think that I have a young tenure, so to speak, both as a trustee, but especially as a chair. But that being said, hopefully a little bit of an outsider's perspective will be truly helpful. And as mentioned, very, very excited. Just process-wise, I'll be meeting with each one of you one-on-one and be reaching out. I've already started that process. And so very much looking forward to hearing individual perspectives as we move along this process. And it's an exciting time for the BPL. I think that we'd all agree. So thank you very much for all of your support and your own efforts in this work.
Ray,
moving on. Oh yeah, please, Cheryl.
I just want to say thank you for doing this. Sometimes these jobs or these roles can be time consuming and on occasion thankless. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that acknowledgement, but very much excited and would not have taken it unless I knew that together we could do this with excellence. So appreciate it. Thank you. I think we move on to the next slide, perhaps. So is there new business?
I don't know if we have many. I just know that Mr. Leonard would like to do an operational update briefly, if that's okay.
Exactly.
Thank you. As we are still in a public meeting, and there is one matter I thought important enough to update the trustees on, I'll do that now. This pertains to the critical repair project for the loading dock deck, which you approved and voted on the contract for earlier this year. The work basically involved repairs to what became a crumbling concrete situation on our loading dock. The loading dock happens to also be the ceiling of the mechanical room at the Central Library, where the power plant, HVAC systems, and indeed all of the steam feed for both buildings comes into the building. And so the project, this phase of the project, which began, we couldn't begin until after the marathon because of the load in, load out requirements. which meant that we started this phase of the project a little after mid-April. And the vendor required that the steam be shut off for safety reasons in order to conduct the rather serious levels of repair and interventions in the concrete slab for that part of the building, which means we've been operating without heating or cooling for this period. And at the time we green lighted it, there was not predicted to be an unacceptable peak in temperatures until late June. However, last week we had 3 days of 80+ degree weather with increasing humidity levels as well, which resulted in having at least 3 days of partial, if not full, closures of the Central Library. So we were not open to the public. We did alert you, I think, on the first occasion, but the total report is that there were, in fact, 3 days of public service affected, which is unprecedented, unheard of outside of really big situations such as COVID and so on and so forth. So we regret this, but we hit the thresholds which we are legally obligated through our union contracts to close for. This phase of the project is actually completing tomorrow, and late Wednesday night, we will be turning steam back on, which means we can have a staggered return to cooling levels over the course of the rest of the week. The second phase of the project will continue without needing steam shut off. We did engage the contractor to proceed with longer shifts, extra hours, extra shifts to get things done more quickly. However, the damage they discovered was actually worse than originally planned. So any gains consumed by the extra shifts and hours were taken up by the additional repair work. So we're still on the original schedule of tomorrow. So yeah, that's really the update. An unfortunate but necessary and critical repair, and one which will be resolved from a public service point of view by Wednesday night, which is tomorrow. We will be doing an after action report once the entire project is done, as there are some questions as to why was this not done last year? Could it have been done without steam shut off? Were there alternate cooling mechanisms that could have been engaged? I do have a series of questions, but those are all 2020 hindsight questions. So happy to update you at a later point if you desire. But this was a serious enough interruption to public service that I wanted the trustee to be briefed on the matter.
David, how much time did we actually have to close the library?
So there were 2 full days of both buildings closed, and on one additional day, we closed one of the buildings, but we were able to keep McKim open.
Thank you.
I guess the bigger question, David, is I guess this is just a physical plant, old building, and it's part of the whole capital campaign we're trying to deliver to do the work, because we could end up with more and more of these situations, or is this just a really big one and bad timing?
I think this was flagged as a thing that would have to be done later during the 2016-2017 renovations. And so it was identified, but was not actually acted on until it reached a critical level. Yeah, I mean, if you recall, both buildings are about 1 million square feet. The 2015-2016, the Johnson renovations to date only addressed the 140,000 square foot public space. So maybe a third of the Johnson building has been renovated. And as we know, about 2/3 or 3/4 of the McKim building were renovated in the 90s and 2000s. So there is a continued exposure around crumbling conditions, certainly on the McKim 3rd floor, as well as in other parts of the building.
As a side note, as you mentioned, David, extraordinary circumstances. Unfortunately, I think with climate change, the need to close down for such things may not be sort of just one-off. It was interesting on that day when we received the news. I was sharing a New York Times article, I think, that talked about heat issues for employees and how that was sort of something on a national level where employee safety sort of was a real concern. And this is not an article that you would have seen even 5 years ago or so. So it's unfortunate.
And I think we always have four concerns in this context. We have concern for the public. Is it like a safe space for them to come into? Concerns for the staff. Is it acceptable working conditions? Concerns for the books and collections as well, because with the combination of humidity, relative humidity, a dew point rise, and high temperatures or movement between extreme temperatures, we can create the conditions for mold outbreaks and other degradation situations. And then the fourth, of course, is our private events business that we have to pay attention to as well. Great. So I just wanted to make sure you were all updated and aware of what had happened, the background, and that we're basically 24 hours, 36 hours away from getting back to normal.
Excellent. Thank you, David, for leading us through this challenging time. Before moving to public comment, any other new business from members here? Hearing none, maybe move to public comment if there are any, Pamela.
We do not have any public comment signups.
Okay, great. And I guess that next section would be closing down the public portion of this meeting.
Correct.
And adjourn.
The next thing we have to do is just take a vote to go into executive session.
Great.
Pamela,
So
can
I will.
just ask, I'm sorry.
Please.
Do we need a separate link for that, or we?
Yes. I sent you should have gotten one that said executive session closed, private, and if not, I can always resend it to you right as soon as we leave here, Cheryl, so you can get it right then.
Can you do that in case I missed that? Because I actually, yeah, thank
Of
you.
course. Anyone else need the second link? No? Okay. No problem.
So we'll adjourn the public section, but we'll vote for the opening an executive session. I think you can read the slide here. One of the main purposes is to conduct a session around and get an update around negotiations for non-union staff member, as well as updates for the collective bargaining agreements. We will not be reconvening a public session. Do we need to take a roll call vote, or you did that
Yes,
already?
I have to take a roll call for this. It can't be so I'll read your last name, Arano Ortiz. Oh, actually, can you make a motion and all of that? I'm sorry.
Sure. A motion. I guess I will ask for a motion for us to move into executive session as per the language on the slide in front of you.
So moved.
Do I hear a
Second.
second?
Second.
All right. Arano Ortiz,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Cronin,
Yes.
Heiler,
Yes.
Hawkins,
Yes.
Lou,
Yes.
and Westra.
Yes.
So moved.
All right.
All right. So,
See you in a bit.
yep. So we'll leave this room and we'll go into the next one. You'll have to be accepted to go into it. It's a waiting room that you go into.
May I ask you to send me the link as well, Pamela? Thank you.
Yes, of course. Yep.